What a headshot! What a head!
How's it, guys? This is Dayvy, FPL, and welcome back to the Fantasy Premier League video here on my channel. Now in this video, I'm going to bring you guys my team selection for the upcoming double game week 25. So hopefully game week going well for you. We actually still do have games happening tonight, but we'll talk about that a little bit later on when we look at the game week 24 review. After that review, I'm going to take you guys straight in to my game week 25 team selection and transfer plan, which will incorporate the upcoming doubles and blanks and how I'm going to kind of address them. So that's something you guys are interested in? Sit back, relax, and let's get straight into it. So going over my game week 24 team review as we usually do on these team selections. First off the bat, I just want to mention that the Liverpool game and the Arsenal game are still happening tonight. So the rank and the points might change, but currently we're sitting with 53 total points, and that sets us just below that top 8.7k mark or 8.6k, whatever floats your boat. So we have returned into the top 10k rankings once again. I am expecting some change though, considering the fact that most people actually did captain Diogo Jota. Trent Alexander-Arnold, everyone kind of owns him. A select few have also captained him, but then I also do have Ben White coming up tonight for Arsenal that hopefully can keep a clean sheet. So really happy that we have entered the top 10k yet again. Now it's just going to be the battle of staying there from now to the end of the season. So before we get on to the starting 11, let's talk about our bench first, and not too much to talk about there. Ben Foster with 2 points. Watford didn't really trust that defense. However, they did actually do quite well against West Ham, and they only ended up conceding a deflected shot from Jared Bowen. But no, that does not increase my faith in that Watford defense. I'm not going to be trusting Ben Foster too much. However, in that upcoming double game week 26, we might turn to the YouTuber and put him between the sticks. Emmanuel Dennis comes up next on our bench, and that was kind of a debate in our deadline stream of who to start, Dennis or Josh King. At the end of the day, both of them ended up blanking, so that 2-pointer debate wasn't too intense, as well as Douglas Luiz. If you guys did watch my team selection pre-game week 24, I actually did have Douglas Luiz in my team because I had a feeling that Leeds were going to kind of concede a few, and I thought that maybe Douglas Luiz could get on the receiving end of a lucky assist or a goal, but no, that wasn't the case. His deeper position in that midfield has definitely not replicated the stats he had at the start of the season, and unfortunately at 4.5, 4.4 actually, he's not too great value currently when you do have Jalen Ramsey at about 4.6. Marcos Alonso obviously didn't have a fixture considering the fact that Chelsea were at the Club World Cup. They did end up winning their semi-final, so they will miss game week 25 now, playing the Club World Cup final, so good luck to them. But now going on to our starting 11, and this is where the magic happened. Luckily from a defensive point of view, we actually did have a couple of returns. David De Gea, won't talk about him for too long, yet again disappointing us, but I'm not trying to blame De Gea too much. I think I'd rather blame Harry Maguire for conceding that goal that Burnley did score with basically their only shot of the game. So United yet again showing how they're not the defensive threat that they've been in the prior seasons, and I guess the only reason I'm actually keeping De Gea is because he does have a double game week in game week 25. So far returning a lovely 5 points. He did pick up a yellow card though. I don't think he was on for bonus points anyway, so just from 6 points to 5 points, but luckily West Ham did keep a clean sheet. Unluckily, maybe if Josh King or Dennis scored a goal, would have maybe got some points there, but I was happy with that West Ham clean sheet as I actually did think they would keep one. We then move on to Cancelo, another popular captaincy option. Not really popular. I think this week, at game week 24, the captaincy was super split, but I do think if you guys captain Cancelo, you're quite unlucky that he only ended up with 7 points. So I think I read a stat today that in game week 24, Cancelo's had the most shots and shots on target, and considering the fact that he's a left back, he played against Brentford last night at that left back position, kind of cutting in, getting those shots in, but unfortunately nothing came from it. And that's what I'm saying, from an attacking point of view, he was all over the place, and therefore if you only ended up with 7 points, a little bit unlucky from a Cancelo captaincy point of view. We then have our 2 players tonight. We've got Trent Alexander-Arnold, who basically everyone owns, so whatever points he scores, I think that it won't affect our rank too much, but he is above 100% effective ownership, so hopefully he doesn't bang too much because then we might be on the receiving end of a red arrow. But Ben White, definitely our differential, hopefully kind of matches Ramsdale because Ramsdale's ownership might not be that high, but his ceiling is definitely quite high considering the fact that he only needs 1 save to pick up 3 bonus points. So maybe Ben White could get a cheeky assist or maybe even a goal from that right back position, which he is rumoured to start if Tomiyasu is not fit. But Wolves can be quite a tricky side, however they haven't been scoring too many goals recently, and that's why I do have a slight hope that Ben White does keep a clean sheet. But now going on to our midfield department, and that's where most points came from. It's going to be Jarrod Bowen with 11 points, and then Kevin De Bruyne, who actually matched him with 11 points as well. So our captain and vice captain both returned 11 points, and I was actually quite happy that they matched each other, because in my mind, I actually didn't want to captain Jarrod Bowen, and it was quite a debate that went down to the deadline, if you guys did watch my deadline stream. But Kevin De Bruyne was the no-brainer transfer in my opinion, and yes, his goal was a little bit lucky, but after that goal, he really turned up the performance, and he actually looked at the midfielder that we've all become accustomed to over these previous seasons. So 11 points doubled to 22 for KDB. We then have our disappointment, Bruno Fernandes with only 2 points. United overall were quite disappointing, but I thought that Bruno actually had a pretty respectable game. He did have a couple of big chances created, not too many kind of shots on target, but overall United were a little bit flat. Even when Ronaldo came off the bench, I didn't think their attacking output was that strong. He was a little bit unfortunate to miss out on an assist. He actually got the assist for Varane's first goal, but Harry Maguire was offsides, came back into play, affected the play, and therefore that goal was ruled out by VAR. Jarrod Bowen, as mentioned earlier on with Ben Foster, got a nice little deflected long ranger, but I mean his form is sensational at the current moment, racking up 3 bonus points as well as the clean sheet point. The final midfielder in our department is going to be Diogo Jota, but he's owned and actually captained by a large majority of FPL managers, and therefore if he decides to have a quiet night, might not actually be the worst thing for our team. But luckily I've saved the best for last. We're going to talk about our forward options. We got Josh King and then Antonio, both returning 2 points there as we become a little bit accustomed to from these 2 striker options. So yet again, another game week where the forwards are showing us that they're not worth it in terms of value. Antonio yet again returning 2 points. He's gone on kind of a run of 2 points. At least he's a little bit consistent this FPL season, but I mean majority of his points came within the first 3 game weeks, so which is a little bit disappointing, and I can understand if you guys want to ship him out. Josh King, though, is a little bit of a tougher situation considering the fact that Watford do have a double coming up, but even if they have 2 fixtures, that's only going to result in 4 points, so I might actually be better off at taking them out. I do want to kind of end off my team review with the transfer that I was actually planning to do. It was going to be Josh King or Dennis, probably Dennis out for Edouard from Crystal Palace. Now the reason we did not actually go for that move was we thought that there was a couple of options returning to that Crystal Palace squad in that forward department, and therefore there might be some rotation within those strikers and the wingers. Now, to be honest, I did not expect that rotation to come as soon as it did in Game Week 24 against Norwich. I was actually expecting Edouard to start up front, but the Crystal Palace manager actually went for a front 3 of Elise, who has that good form, and that's why I think he did start. Wilfried Zaha, who came back from AFCON, and Mateta, who actually has had some good form as well over these prior games. So luckily we did not make that move, but I don't exactly know the situation with Edouard now, if he's going to start the next one, if he won't, considering the fact that Crystal Palace did draw that fixture. But overall, pretty happy with the game week so far. 8.6k, really respectable there. Hopefully Diogo Jota doesn't come back and turn my green arrow into a red. Let me know in the comments down below how you guys got on in Game Week 24. I'm pretty sure most of you had a good game week like me, especially if you guys captained Bowen or Kevin De Bruyne. I'm now going to shift attention to double game week 25, and I actually want to talk about the team selection before the transfers, just to give you guys some context and background of my current FPL team. So as we always do, I'm going to talk about the bench first, and you guys can see that the bench this week is relatively thin, with Alonso and Ben White both having a blank game week. So Chelsea were going to take on Arsenal in game week 25, but I probably would have benched them anyways, but it does make Alonso look like a better option to take out, especially when you consider the fact that Ben White has that very nice double coming up next game week. Now Ben Foster will be on the bench. I think that Brighton game might be a clean sheet for Watford, but I don't have too many expectations from a Watford defensive point of view, and that's why he's going to be on my bench along with Douglas Luiz, who has Newcastle. Now Douglas Luiz is a little bit of a hard one because I do think Aston Villa will have a good showing against Newcastle, but I just think with that deeper lying midfielder position, he's not going to rack up too many attacking threat points, and that's why I think that I would rather just have him on my bench, and if he has to come off, he can. But now going on to our starting defense, and what you guys must remember please is that this is with no transfers done, so we can always chop and change some players and they will replace my starting 11 options. But currently with my fit options, I've got a back 3 of Soufal, Cancelo and Trent Alexander-Arnold. But first, before we talk about the defenders, let's talk about our goalkeeper. Kind of a no-brainer there, it's going to be David De Gea. Some people have even considered him a captaincy option from United, taking on Southampton and then also Brighton at home. Now really I'm just hoping for a clean sheet out of De Gea, but I think Southampton will look quite strong in game week 24 from an attacking side, and then we have Brighton, who might not score the most, but they do still get those chances in the box, and with the way United are defending currently, I do expect them actually to concede in both these games. So maybe that's why I'm not considering him as a captaincy option, but I guess you guys can. Going on to the back three though, Sufal, Cancelo, Trent. Cancelo, Trent kind of picked themselves. The one thing I am worried about though is the Cancelo rotation. And the reason I'm saying that is that last night Pep Guardiola put Kyle Walker and Zinchenko both on the bench. And if you guys have been following the news, Kyle Walker is suspended for the Champions League games. So what most people are saying is that Kyle Walker, Zinchenko will start against Norwich, and that will leave Cancelo rested for their Champions League fixture against Sporting. But I really do hope that Cancelo does start this one, because any game against Norwich from an attacking side or defensive side is a good one, especially when you consider that you own Man City assets. Trent I'm not too worried about because they actually loaned out Neco Williams, his replacement at that right back slot, but I do think Joe Gomez could play, but I'm not really worried about Trent's rotation, even though they also have a Champions League game coming up. We then have Sufal against the Leicester side that have to score because they can't defend, and that's why I'm worried about Sufal. And if I do replace Alonso, I think Sufal will be the player that drops out of my starting 11. But now moving on to our midfield department where things get a little bit rosier. I'm going to start off with Bowen against Leicester. I mentioned that Leicester can't defend when talking about Sufal, so that's going to lead to maybe Bowen getting some attacking returns. And when you see the form that Bowen is over these prior game weeks, you got to kind of back him, and that's why I definitely will be playing him in game week 25. Diego Jota, another player that I just hope won't get rotated, with Luis Diaz, Firmino, Mane returning potentially for that Burnley fixture, and Mo Salah in the mix. We could always have some rotation there, but I do think Jota is undroppable at the moment because of the form he's been showing for that Liverpool side. Now Burnley's a little bit of a tough one because sometimes they park the bus, sometimes they don't, and it's just going to be dependent on how the game goes and how Liverpool's quality in breaking them down is going to be. But then moving on to our two premium assets, going to talk about Bruno Fernandes, our captain actually for game week 25. Because he has a double game week against Southampton and Brighton, I do think there is the potential for United to score in both of these, and that's why I'm hoping that Bruno starts both of them, and then he at least can get the clean sheet point if they keep them. But for me as an FPL manager, it's a no-brainer. I'm going to captain the player with a double game week. You guys can go for other assets, but I think I'm going to be sticking with Bruno, and I actually do prefer Bruno to a Ronaldo in that kind of captaincy debate. But Kevin De Bruyne is actually the interesting one going into this double game week 25. A great fixture against Norwich, but the one thing I do worry about is some rotation. Played 90 minutes against Brentford last night, has that Sporting game coming up. But I mean, it is Kevin De Bruyne, he has the fitness, and he is showing some good form. So I really do hope that he does play, but we might have to consider that rotation when we talk about our transfer plan. And then finally our forward department, which I'm not super confident about. You guys will see I've got two Watford assets against a Brighton side that have actually been quite defensively strong, and that's why I'm expecting 2 points from Denison King, and that way hopefully I won't be let down. I guess the only hope here is that it is a home fixture. Maybe Watford can come up with some magic against Brighton, maybe a penalty or something like that to get Josh King and Dennis some points. But as I mentioned, no hope for them, and hopefully I won't be disappointed. The final player though, Antonio, I definitely will be keeping him just because West Ham have been playing relatively well, and I mean Antonio might get a lucky goal or something like that, and they might even give him the next penalty just to get his confidence up. But Leicester, a side that can't defend, maybe tonight against Liverpool we see a new resurgence in that defense, but I don't really expect too much from them, and that's why Antonio will be still staying, and hopefully he can get us at least an assist or something like that. But overall, the Game Week 25 squad does not look too great. I think it's going to be an average week for me. I really do think the captaincy, if maybe Bruno Fernandes bangs, that'll be quite welcomed. But going in with 2 free transfers and 1.3 in the bank, how can we improve the starting 11? Let me know in the comments down below your guys' predictions, but let's get on to my transfer plan. So talking about our transfers, as I mentioned, 2 free transfers this week, but I'm going to touch on a little bit of the upcoming schedule just to give you guys the current mindset that I'm in. So currently what I'm thinking is that next week I will 100% be bringing in Mo Salah. Are we going to do it this week or next? I'll talk about that shortly, but definitely next week I've penciled in the transfer Mo Salah and I'm going to put the triple captaincy on him. So that is 1 free transfer for the upcoming game weeks. Now I do have 2 free transfers. I can either bank it or I can only bring in Mo Salah next week. So if I do choose to bring in Mo Salah next week, I therefore have to use a transfer, and the transfer that I would probably be using is going to be on my defense. So the reason I'm being quite conservative with my free transfers is that I do want 2 free transfers before blank game week 27 because I do own a number of Liverpool and Arsenal assets. Now, if you guys have watched the game week schedule, you'll notice that Arsenal and Liverpool both blank in game week 27, and I don't have another free hit, only have 1 free hit, and I'm saving that for a little bit later on in the season. So let's say I choose to bring in Mo Salah next week, even though I do have 2 free transfers. The transfer that I will be using is going to be on Marcos Alonso, and that'll be Marcos Alonso out, but who for? So in terms of defensive options, there's a Reguilon, there's a Luca Digne, a Matty Cash, but they have not been performing that well in game week 24, which has put me slightly off them, and has edged me a little bit more towards double game week 25, and looking at a Brighton asset, and his name is going to be Cucurella. Now I guess I would go for Lamptey if he was guaranteed to start, but I do think Cucurella is more of a nailed option. We saw in the FA Cup him actually playing in that back three, which I wasn't too fond of because I really do think he has that attacking threat at that fullback position, and that's why I do prefer him from an FPL point of view. So hopefully Potter plays him at that wing-back position, because then in that Watford game I do expect him to keep a clean sheet. I know it's a little bit contradictory because I do own Dennis and also Josh King in my starting 11, but I guess I hope that Cucurella either keeps a clean sheet or Dennis or King scores a goal. So currently this is my penciled in transfer from a defensive point of view, and using my one free transfer out of the two, just because Brighton have some nice fixtures coming up, and I guess there could potentially be some doubles in the near future. Marcos Alonso also makes it quite easy because Chelsea also have blanks coming up, and therefore I want to take him out because he's storing a lot of cash and I want to downgrade him so I can upgrade other departments with that extra money. Now one of those upgrades could potentially be to bring in Mo Salah. This is all going to depend on what happens tonight, because for example if Mo Salah plays tonight, bangs, comes off at 60 minutes, I would have some expectation of him starting against Burnley, but if he does play a full 90 minutes, I do think that Burnley game could be in jeopardy. Liverpool have a super tough game against Inter Milan in the Champions League, leading Serie A. I don't think it's going to be an easy game at all, and therefore I think Klopp will definitely play his stronger starting 11, and that definitely includes Mo Salah. But I do have two free transfers, so if Salah banks tonight, I'm confident of him starting against Burnley. I could always bring him in, but who for? Well, it's not going to be for Bruno Fernandes, it's going to be for Kevin De Bruyne. So we did touch on this slightly when we talked about the team selection, that there could be some rotation for Man City, and therefore Kevin De Bruyne's place against that weak Norwich side might not be that secured, and therefore if I am confident that he is going to be benched and Mo Salah starts, I could actually bring that move one game week forward and do it in game week 25. But I would actually really like to keep De Bruyne if I am confident of him starting, because as I said, Norwich, I think Man City will score a couple past them as they did in the reverse game a little bit earlier on in the season. But definitely Mo Salah will come in next week for the triple captain, because that Liverpool double against Leeds and Norwich at home is too hard to ignore. So currently this is going to be the transfer plan. One transfer is penciled in, it's going to be Cucurella in for Alonso, but I could always do Salah in for De Bruyne if Salah looks good tonight. Let me know what transfers you guys are doing. Are you bringing in a Jacob Ramsey, a Coutinho, maybe even one of the defensive options besides Cucurella? And do you like the Brighton odds of getting a clean sheet when they have two games in double game week 25 against Watford and Man United? But this is basically a wrap up the video, guys. Hopefully you did enjoy it. Please don't forget to like if you did and subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. Hopefully I'll see you guys in the deadline stream 1 hour before the deadline. But otherwise, I'm going to sign off. It's been Dayvy FPL and I'm out. Cheers, bye.